Hello, Survivor Now podcast, StockWatch Nation, the official title of all of our viewers, the Survivor Now StockWatch Nation. My name is Will, and with me it is the one and only, one of a kind, truly marvelous, well spoken, truly articulate, God's gift to Survivor Now StockWatch. It's Josh Ellie Pickle. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. This was a very interesting episode. I um I would have to say I want to start off by saying I don't think I was surprised at who went. I had on my list last week that Chrissy was gonna go. I had her at the bottom. I didn't know if maybe she would have a shot at recovery this episode, but it's the thing that really struck me the most, I would say, Will, was the kind of target that she tried to place onto Joe and David's backs, taking out those bigger threats at the vote out where Cedric went home. Just kind of coming into this tribal with the same mentality. I want to start off with a question for you, Will, actually, if I can. Do you think that Chrissy in particular, if she came in with the mentality of like, hey, I need to be adaptable to what the wants and needs of the players this season are, do you think that she would have had a better shot at survival at this tribal?
Yeah, it depends. I think Chrissy kind of like how she kind of said to David at Tribal Council. She kind of just got dealt a pretty raw hand in the cash she played with. Also, we were missing you too, Jay, and hello, Chris Dixon. We do apologize about the rescheduling. I will make sure this will never happen again. We will go back to Thursday nights, especially for Gemini. But apologies, Josh. The commentators and viewers are slightly more important than us. But well, I think Chrissy had the right ideas. I think strategically she knew what she was doing, and she kind of reminded me. This is a wild take, by the way, but I've been doing a South Pacific rewatch, which I think is a very fitting season to watch in parallel to 48. But she kind of reminded me of Papa Bear. Remember Papa Bear from South Pacific? Good old Mark.
I think I do. I remember. I vaguely remember South Pacific because during that time that I was watching that season, I would watch it while I like worked out in my gym.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like had it on the background, just had it going. I do need to do a rewatch of South Pacific, but I will say South Pacific wasn't really my favorite because I only watched it for Brandon, Ozzy, and Coach.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why I've been rewatching it, because I'm a big fan of South Pacific, and I wanted to take a new lens and take a new look at South Pacific and also the characters on it, especially Brandon Hance in particular. But we can talk about Brandon Hance off air. But the reason why I say that is because Chrissy was very aware of her position. She knew what was going on around her. She just did not have any numbers or allies, because the Good Guys Alliance kind of got all of their plus ones. They got Kamilla through Kyle, even though Kyle's starting to waver a bit, and we'll get to Kyle too. And then there's also now Mary, who's entering the fold with David. And so that's two numbers right then and there that's shot, right? And then Star lost her vote because the majority alliance kind of rigged it against Star. So,
So this really sucks, because I think out of the both of us, our preseason winner picks, I was the first one to have someone fall. Chrissy was my preseason winner pick. Shout out to Tegwith. Premiere Party got the pin to prove it that I picked Chrissy to win. So I was rooting for her. But what I will say about Chrissy, I think she had the right ideas. She obviously was trying to put a radar that, the strong people within the game were looking out for each other. And Chrissy 100% did everything she could to fight to the very end. But that was, an alliance that was looking at her. And I feel like she kind of got put in this casualty situation where that's why I wanted to open up the conversation. I feel like this was definitely a season that, maybe don't go against the big, strong guys, try and work with them. Because it didn't seem like it was one of those seasons. One thing that stuck with me, right? And this is why I say this, is because Chrissy said, well, something like along the lines, well, every other season, everybody else wants to take out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
And the reason why I asked you that question was because Chrissy was bringing up that, if every other season it's about taking out the big bad players and the comp threats, then why can't it be this season? And that's why I want to say, was this a season where is the core of what the wants and needs of the group of players that are still in the game? Do they want to keep the big bad competitive players around, or do they want to take them out? And it seems like this is a season where they want to protect all the bigger players and kind of have like this battle at the very end. And I think that's something that needed to be recognized, where the wants and needs of everybody are, because that's important. What do people in the game want? That's essentially what's going to dictate the game.
Well, I have a follow-up question for you, Josh, and also for the commenters talking in chat. They're all talking about, fun fact, Chris Dixon over here has the same birthday as Papa Bear. That's the kind of random facts I love about Papa Bear, because I feel like a lot of people I've talked to about Survivor all have like a weird fact about him, where like he's like somehow involved with the community despite being like a very obscure third boot. But do you think even if Chrissy didn't, let's just say Chrissy was more quiet, because a lot of criticism she's been having is that she kind of showed all of her cards way too early. She, revealed that she was against this majority alliance, and that already ostracized her, but she already had no social capital. Let's just say she did the smart thing. Let's just say she kept under the radar, went to Kamilla and was like, hey, we got to take out one of the Loggy members or David, like they're running the game. And then they go to like Mary, and let's just say Star didn't lose her vote. Do you think Chrissy would have fared much better, or do you think she was always kind of doomed? Because I think Chrissy, no matter what, was always doomed to not make it that far because of how tight the Alliance of Five is, and Ava having an idol that's very public that I think she's willing to use on other people. And then obviously we know it now, but there's a new advantage coming into play. One of those scenes where you have to sneak off in the middle of the night, stealth missions, I call them. Like, do you think Chrissy had a chance to survive?
No, I don't think Chrissy had a chance to survive. I do also agree that she was doomed from the beginning. Even if Chrissy did keep her, I want to say, if Chrissy was able to refrain from the comments that she made at Tribal, I feel like it would have fared a little bit easier. The reason why I say that is because, like, yes, it was really early. You're still with 10 people, right? 10 people left in the tribe at that point. And I feel like going after multiple people who fall under the lines of competitive threats and those bigger comp players, I think that could have applied for a lot of people. And saying that with so many people at Tribal, especially when you were already ostracized or isolated from the rest of the group, you weren't in a challenge for your vote to work with people. You were with Kyle, and that's that. And everybody else had like a group of more than 2 people to talk with. So you were already at a disadvantage. And what I will say is, even if Chrissy did go and tell someone about getting out Loggy, who are you going to tell that's not going to run back and tell someone from Loggy? Who are you going to be able to tell? Kyle would have probably spilled the beans anyway. Mary would have. David would have. Eva would have. The only person I don't know would have been Star, but I would have liked to know. I would have liked to see Star go to Eva and say
Yeah,
something. So I don't feel like Chrissy could have said any member from Logie without that getting back and biting Chrissy later.
yeah,
So yeah, I do think Chrissy was doomed, unfortunately, and it's tough. It's really
it
tough.
is.
That was a tough loss.
Speaking of doomed, I think this is a pretty apt segue over to Star, a player who you don't have last, which is legitimately surprising. I think Star is the new Chrissy, who was the new Cedric, who was the new Say, in terms of just no chance to win. I don't really see the longevity. And also, there's just not anything to say about Star because her screen time has been very situational. There's only been one scene of importance that didn't revolve around an idol or journey or challenge. And it's rough because the scenes we do get a Star are really, really cool. Star seems like a cool person. However, there's just no content. It's very minimal.
Hear me out.
And I'm hearing you out.
I have Star ranked at 8 because of two things. One, and I wrote this down, it shows specifically with these duos. We talked this whole season, it's about a season of duos, and we have an immunity competition where you can pick pairs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like everybody stuck with their pair. I mean, Joe and Eva picked each other. David and Mary picked each other. Shaheen was smart because he decided to go with Kamilla, which kind of broke off Kyle and Kamilla from each other, which was good.
Yeah.
Kyle then picks Chrissy, which is an old Siva, which leaves Mitch and Star on the outs. So to me, that tells me that no one's really looking out for Mitch or Star. However, Mitch and Star haven't had their names set. And that's why I have Star not at last place, because there's only one person who had their name said last episode that's still in this game. And that's why I ranked them lower than Star. But here's what I do have to say about Star. Even though Star is ranked at 8 for me, Star is 100%, I will put money on this, not going home next episode. Because I think Star is this player who's just going to be at the bottom, but no one's ever going to go after Star. I feel the bigger people are going to start targeting each other, and somebody who's above Star or the person below Star is going to go home next episode. I think that someone's going to take a shot, and my guess is next episode, one of these bigger players that we've been rooting for all season is going to become the first real strategic, bigger end player of the season going on the jury. And by that I mean someone from the Strong Alliance.
Yeah, I mean I agree to a point, but the only thing I disagree with is that the person I think you think is going out next episode, I think is sticking around, and I think has a better shot than you and I are giving her credit for.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I do want to point out a comment from Chris. I do agree to an extent. Aaron from Token Chains is kind of a perfect perfect example, because Aaron, just like Star, wasn't just ostracized, but just kind of wasn't in the equation whatsoever for the power players. Steven and JT, they did not talk about Aaron at all. It was very focused on Tyson, Brendan, that whole war, Sierra, but never Aaron, which always made me forget that she made the final 3. What does that say for Star? I don't really know. But no, I agree with J2. Very fun. Just edit doesn't want to show it and doesn't want us to be excited for Star. And I think that's it on Star. Is there anything else you have to say about Star? I feel
just check my notes, because that was something that I just immediately thought was interesting. But again, nobody's saying Star's name. The only time Star's name's ever been said this season was when Star was on Logie with a Beware advantage that Star couldn't even solve.
Yeah.
So I I have Star listed low specifically because of the fact that Star didn't have an ally to pick in that pair group. Nobody was picking Star first. And I feel like Mitch and Star were the two players that were on the outs that didn't really get somebody who was like going to be rock solid with them in the game. So I wanted to point that out. And I think that's the only reason why I have Star listed this low. Just because that's what's been to us. But I do think Star is like projection wise where I really see like Star's ceiling or potential right now is like,
yeah, her longevity,
like a 4-5.
4-5.
I see a Star ceiling at 4-5. Like until Star proves me wrong in any other aspect, right now that's just what I've seen this season. But this is Star's floor for me. 8.
8. That's the floor.
I see a ceiling of 4-5. We're talking numbers here. StockWatch.
We are talking.
Like,
I can see Fire making loser. That's all I can see with stuff. Like that's the top. But even then, there's other players.
4-5.
4-5.
I could see Star being one of the players in finale.
Again, Liz Wilcox, always the most apt description. But next up at number 8, we have Kamilla, who I think had a pretty good episode. I think this is a good episode for Kamilla. The thing is that I want to talk about, the edit, how scenes are described to us, and also what it means, because I take note a lot of any promises a player makes, right? Whenever they open the episode saying, like, in their confession, like, hey, I need to lay low, I take note. Do they lay low? Are they going over the top? Because we've seen that before where players like, I need to, stick to my guns. I need to just woosah, and then they go off screaming and being over the top, right? Kamilla was hellbent on a Shaheen plan, right? But she was like, she had to rebound because Star lost her vote. That was a bad case scenario for Kamilla, and the only way that she was able to survive, she said this, the only way she can survive is by sticking to the numbers, which I think is a very apt and justified response. And I think it makes sense narratively. I also think that her ally Kyle had a much, 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 much worse episode along with David. And so I think this was a pretty bad episode in terms of what actually happened, but the way it's described to us, I think Kamilla squeaks out. And I think that next episode is going to be a war between Shaheen, David, and Kyle.
I agree with that statement. I do agree that is going to be a statement. Yep.
Like outer ring, right? And so I think no matter what, Kamilla is going to be fine. I can see her going out 100%. I could see like them being worried about an idol or something, and Kamilla could be seen as an easier vote to still take a shot at Kyle. But I think they go for the jugular. I think there's a good chance that Kyle is the next person voted out. Personally.
Okay. So here's where I am at. The previews, these last 3 episodes, have shown us primarily with a name of someone who's not going home. They did it with David. They said, oh, David's going crazy. And David didn't even go crazy. Like, where was that? Like, the previews have been exaggerating what's going on. So I don't think Shaheen, David, or Kyle go at all. I'm looking at Kamilla because of what the episode has already given us. Yeah. Joe said it himself. We do Chrissy today, Kamilla tomorrow. And that's what I'm riding with right now. People have already stated we should do Kamilla. Yeah. But here's where I'm at, Will. We saw the double, right? Kamilla and Kyle, they get paired together. They say, we're running this. Like, we're on the top. Nobody knows that we're working together. Nobody knows how close we are. And here's the point that I'd like to bring up about Kamilla. Kamilla was my number 2 pick last week. And Kamilla dropped all the way to 9. And it's because of a fatal flaw. They've been on the top for so long that they forget what it's like when people cross-examine and finally clock them and finally start to see the fine lining between the alliances that Kyle and Kamilla are a lot closer than they appear. Now, hear me out.
I'm hearing you.
Kamilla gave an excuse to Star for eliminating them, right?
Mhm.
When I heard that excuse, complete BS. I believe Kamilla used the lines, "Oh, Star, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to get the game over with faster." I'd play it for $1 million. If somebody said that to me, you have to know that Camilla's against you immediately. And when nobody's really talking about that, I haven't really had a conversation with my friends about that yet. Star, we need to hear a confessional about how Star feels about Kamilla doing that, because that excuse was unacceptable. If
I
someone
don't
is saying
think so.
you are against me, and that means that you don't care about my vote in this game. Now that we're talking about Star and Kamilla and we can kind of connect the both of them, Star needs to, at some point,
So.
Kamilla, you're not with me for doing that, because it was always Kamilla going in front of Star. Kamilla was always willing to let Star get hit with that instead of saying, you know what, let me take one, let Star take the next one, and Star can give the red ball to Mitch or to Shaheen. Kamilla was always saying, you know what, I'm going to make sure that Star gets that red ball every single time. And honestly, if I'm Star and I'm the Survivor editors, I'm not letting people know where Star's vote is, because Star is going to become pivotal into the Kamilla vote out. I'm telling you, I'm locking it in.
Locking it in. Okay.
Star is going to be a pivotal vote in Camilla's vote out. And it's going to be the first major move that Star does in this game to get out a big threat. You want to get out a big threat? Take out Kamilla and do it now. I'm ready.
Cutting you off. I was trying to time it.
Sorry, you're good.
I will say I do disagree with one thing. I don't think that lie was bad. I think it was a TV moment. I think it's easily justified. It's just what we heard at the moment didn't really make sense. But I think the logic Kamilla was using was she wants the game to be over with. That way the game isn't prolonged. That way she could potentially lose her vote. It's easier to just say, like, Star, you have 2, I have 1. I could try to save you and extend the game, but that could just lead to me losing my vote, and I need my vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I highlight a comment from Jay? It says the thing that Star doesn't know about Kamilla, right?
Yeah.
So Jay states Star doesn't know that Kamilla was trying to target her. Here's where I will come in and say the evidence is right out in the open. It's all about what people say to you. If somebody's really with you, if they're an ally of yours, if they're going to be solid and they genuinely care about where your vote is, Jay, in a game like this, for $1 million, if they trust you, they're not going to see you as expendable and be willing to let you lose your vote at Tribal Council. By doing that, that kind of says, hey, I don't care if you don't have a vote tonight because I'm not working with you. That's immediately what that would have told me. And it's told to me because Kamilla is valuing the time spent on a reward, on a lose your vote challenge. You're there 24/7 on an island for 26 days. You're going to be there. Why does it matter how much time you spend on a competition where your vote is at stake? Kamilla saying that to me is an act of like, hey, I don't care if you lose your vote because I'm not working with you that closely. She already said it. She's working with Shaheen. These eye looks, these kind of unspoken words that Kamilla was saying in her confessional. To me, that tells me if I'm Star, Kamilla is not with me. I need to recognize that, and that needs to be a move that I need to look at later. If Star doesn't do that, I'm willing to bet you that Kamilla is going to be the one writing Star's name the night that Star goes home. Who's going to get each other first? I want to see it. That to me, that is Survivor evidence that shows you who is with you and who is against you.
Yeah, the only thing is that it's I don't think Star saw Kamilla in Star or Camilla was giving eyes with Mitch.
Okay.
And I think that's an important distinction because let's just say Star did find out, right? Let's just say Star realized, like, hey, why is Kamilla and Mitch going after me? I think Kamilla can still make a lie and say, like, I'm good with Mitch. We are the outsiders. We need to stick together. Kamilla can bring back the Shaheen idol lie. Kamilla could be like, I'm pretty sure Shaheen has an idol, and so I need him to feel comfortable. The only way I can do that is by, pretending to be against you. I think we take out Chrissy now, and then next round when there's less numbers and less variables, me, you, Mitch, she can include she can even lie. She could say like Mary or whoever.
Yeah.
Can take out like Shaheen, right? Or even David or just someone, right? And so I don't think it was that bad of a move. I just think I do agree though, it's a little
Wait, when you say
much.
move, you're talking
Not,
about letting Star lose their vote?
yeah. Like, and just the whole eyes. I do think, and just Camilla's game overall has been very consistent in a bad way. I think she's always just been kind of sneakish and like very, like throwing people under the bus, which is a great gameplay. It's just there needs to be some adaptations because she's kind of playing it still like she's on Siva day one, and she's not playing with charity, and the whole vibe of the tribe is different. I think.
I think Star was the odd one out because Star hadn't been on a tribe with Shaheen since original Lagi. Kamilla already had time to work with Shaheen and Mitch at different points in the game. I feel like that just kind of pushed with the power dynamics and the alliances already made. It kind of pushed Star to the outside anyway. Star was going to lose their vote. I'm just talking particularly about the comment,
the lie,
just like the reasoning. Like if I'm playing for $1 million, that reasoning would really upset me because I'm playing for $1 million. I got all day, and you're gonna tell me that it's a time constraint, that you're worried you don't want to be playing this for that long. You're here for 26 days. Like you're just gonna go on the boat back to your beach. Like what?
Again, I don't think she meant time as in like literal. I think it was just she didn't want to prolong the game. Or she can even say like she wanted to get back to the camp early so she doesn't lose out on talking. Because don't forget they had a tribal council and they weren't there. It's just those 4 away from everyone else. So they probably want to get back.
Okay, that's a good point. If Kamilla did bring up the point that I want to end this quick so that I can get back to camp and start strategizing with other people, that I can understand, but the edit didn't show that, and that kind of scared me. Like, for me, it's like, listen, like, I understand you want to prolong the game, but still, like, you're choosing, going and rushing, maybe like for 30 more minutes of strategizing.
Yeah.
Right? For 30 more minutes of strategizing, you want to finish a game quicker because you really don't care that Star's going to lose their vote. That's just how I see it. Like we're getting down to the final 9. If you're not caring about me losing my vote at a pivotal point in the game, that's scary. That's scary. And I really, for Star's sake, I hope she recognizes that, or at least has a confessional about it and brings it up at some point. Because I want to know where Star's thinking about, what Star's thinking about in like that aspect.
But the fact that we're not as well is also why I have her so low, because she's just not important to the story or narrative. Speaking of not important, we're talking Mary now, who dropped off, who cratered, by the way. Dropped off,
low.
Fell off. Mary's not winning Survivor 48, and it's rough because she had a really interesting storyline and edit. I honestly thought that if she found success at the merge, she had a lot more screen time after escaping the Vula tribe, then she would be in a much better position. But I feel like her storyline is kind of over. She kind of fell off her character arc. She got rid of the Green tribe. She outlived the Vula tribe. And ever since then, we've not heard from her at all. We recently found out that her and David were close, and there was no importance to that duo, so it's not a duo to look out for. And she's just kind of entering in the fold as a very passive member of the loyalty group, the team loyal. But I do agree, Mary for season 50. Why not?
So I want to bring up a few things about Mary in particular, because I actually would say that I disagree. I think that Mary, this is a really good episode for Mary. She moved up some spots for me, and the reason why I have her at 6 is because the person below Mary is the other person who I said was on the outs of that reward, not reward, kind of reward immunity challenge. But let's not forget, let's not forget that Mary came in second place at that immunity competition. She held on to that pole. And for me, I felt like Mary could have kept going. I think she gave it to Eva. I genuinely think that Mary gave that to Eva, or that I don't know. I like where the position that Mary's in because we got a solidified alliance between her and David, that they're the closest duo together. They've stuck together, and I like that. I mean, Mary, even in the episode, Mary emphasized that she's close with David and also wants in on an alliance with Joe and Shaheen, which puts both Joe and Shaheen in a good spot. We've already seen them talk, but I thought this was a good episode for Mary. I do see that Mary can win. I do think that this is a season with a lot of bigger characters, where if all of those bigger characters do get taken out, it is going to leave Mary alongside with some other players where Mary could win. I mean, Mary, like we said, Mary went into this entire merge phase without her original tribe. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. If you can come into a final tribal and say, hey, I didn't need any of the original alliances that I made at the beginning of this game. My game started on like day 14 when I got to the merge. Like, she said something like that, you could have my vote. It's just going to depend on the convincing argument. Can Mary make moves? There's still time to make moves. With 9 players, there's still plenty of time to make moves. So I have Mary in a good spot right in the middle. I like the middle spots because you're not all the way at the bottom where you're the next to go, or you're not on the top where people are looking at you. It's a good spot. And I think Mary is right in the middle.
I don't know. I agree with Jay. Just the lack of point of view, the lack of narrative importance. I do know Survivor, sometimes they like to hide their winners, but I think if we're not getting one of the main winners, I think there's only one dark horse option that I think would make any amount of sense, and we'll get to that player later. But like, her storyline came to a close, right? And it's like what I was saying earlier, where promises people make in their confessionals. It's kind of in the same breath, right? Where each character, each player, they have their own story that they enter the game with. And over the course of the game, we see their journey, right? Mary's whole journey was about early game turbulence, right? And her trials and tribulations and whatnot. And that, again, since the merge, we expected Mary to have her game take another direction, but her narrative being completely shafted, I think if she did win, it would be based off of making new social connections, either from the swap or from the merge, because she didn't have any of her old allies. Like, there's no inroads she has with anyone. She had to start from scratch. And the only relationship we really saw develop between Mary and anyone else is David. And so I think that kind of is why I'm eliminating Mary. And I just don't really see longevity either. I agree. Mary is awesome. I love watching Mary. I love watching these players. This was a really cool cast. It's just, it's like Star. Star is dead last for me because there's nothing to rank Star off of, especially compared to guys like, Shaheen, Ava, Kamilla, Kyle, Joe.
That's fine. I mean, I don't think that people, to answer Jay's comment in the comments, she hasn't been shown bonding with anyone outside of David. to me, that's fine. I don't know. I still feel like Mary is prominent because she's just there. She's not on the outs. I feel like Mary has always been on the right side of the boat. So like the information she's getting is truthful. She's always, I don't know. I feel like Mary is in the know. She may not be making those decisions, but that doesn't mean that Mary is incapable of taking out somebody who can make those decisions. So I think she's in a good spot within the alliance that she wanted. Remember, David wanted to bring in Mary to that alliance of 6. That rides out. She's guaranteed top 6.
Yeah.
She's just at the bottom of it.
And I just put like outside of 6, where does she go? Who does she have? Because David isn't. David. But do you want to talk about David now?
Yeah, let's talk about David now. I got a lot to talk about with David. So I found it interesting, right?
Yep.
And David's the big conversation that I'd like to have. I mean, I feel like David's the most that I have to say. David was the one who initially pitched Kamilla at that little reward with tacos. I thought that was interesting, but here was something that I thought was I really wanted to highlight, because not a lot of people are giving David credit on the internet, at least from my point of view and my perspective. I feel like a lot of people felt like this was a very villainous episode for David. I don't feel like David got a lot of praise, specifically in the way that he spoke to people at Tribal Council and throughout the episode. But one thing that I do need to highlight is I love David as a person. And I think that I don't want people to forget how David has represented himself throughout this game. But David's intuition needs to be talked about, because he was spot on this episode.
He was.
And nobody's really bringing that up. David needed to let the tribe know what was going on and emphasize on that. If you're Kyle, like, you're an alliance. If somebody's bringing it up, you're so against going over somebody. I understand, but like, David was trying to put that on the radar, put that on the silver platter, and let people know, why are you so unwilling to vote out Kamilla right now? Why can't you do it?
Here's the thing with David, right? I think if the season was from his perspective, right? If the whole season revolved around him, I think this whole scene would have made a lot more sense. I think I agree with his logic and reasoning. And there's a comment I wanted to talk about. I saw it online somewhere. But basically, it's the idea that David isn't as hypocritical, right? Because the Strong 5 Alliance, they had their +1s. They had their bring-ins, right? They have obvious duos that people aren't afraid of. It's just when you try to hide it, right? Like David and Mary, right? Obvious duo. Like, people noticed and talked about it. Joe and Ava, that's a very obvious duo, right? And David's not worried about the duos. He's not even doing anything with the duos. It's just when it's hidden. When you're trying to hide it and be sneaky. And that's what David was sketched out about. And I agree with that. I think that, I understand why David would be confused as well as to why Kyle all of a sudden really wanted to keep Kamilla. Like, I do not think David did anything wrong there. However, the way he shut down Kyle, the way he talked to Chrissy, I think the way he talked to Chrissy ruined the game for David. Because, when you're in a powerful position like that, you kind of have to know when to just fold, right? Know when to just not respond. Let Chrissy get her cheap shots all on her way out through the door.
Yeah, Chrissy's definitely a bitter juror. I have to agree. I mean, I have to say this. She went out bitter juror, and I think that she's going to be the hardest on David if David goes to the end. But that's more incentive to keep David
It is, but at the same time too, it's like I think David mishandled that relationship. I think if he just let Chrissy go then, and then a final tribal council said like I needed to work with the strong people. I this is the only game a guy like me could have played. I think Chrissy would understand it.
I think from David, what David was trying to get at is that from my perspective, David is one of the most loyal players this season. He was ride or die for that group. Like when he found his group, he wrote it. But Chrissy was the first one to really kind of like pitch an idea that involved David in some capacity, because obviously he's the strongest looking guy on the cast. Him and Joe, I would say, are the strongest looking guys on the cast, like just physically. And I feel like with Chrissy's comments, he took that as an act of "you're against me" when they started out on a tribe and were an alliance of 4. I feel like he felt a little bit betrayed that was coming from Chrissy. And you're right, he didn't handle it the best socially, but he, from my point of view, if like somebody was going against, like there would be some frustration. I feel like David really exemplified that frustration onto Chrissy in that moment, but it was out of the fact that he probably felt really betrayed. I would assume that one of his own tribe members. David's the type of person to me that would be like, I'm coming in tribe strong and I'm going to take my Sivas all the way to the end. And then he was trying to figure out a way to get all of his Sivas to the end, but also his strong person alliance. And
no, he didn't do that.
That was the first time that somebody went against him and he was just like upset. So that's just, I feel like that's just David, that's just the loyal competitive side of David coming out. But in a game for $1 million, you can't do that to Chrissy, especially when she's going out the door, because that's a jury vote that you just lost.
Well, David also said that he didn't want to ride with the Sivas actually this episode, because Mitch tried bringing them all back together, and David in a confessional said, "I don't want to ride with these people. I feel pretty solid my team loyalty." Also,
are we pro or anti-milk?
I'm pro milk.
I'm anti-milk because, well, it depends what milk. I'm anti-milk because I don't drink milk, but almond milk I will.
I love cheese.
I'm pro almond milk. I'm pro almond milk. See, there you go, Jake. I'm pro almond milk, baby.
Pro almond milk.
I'm pro almond milk.
This is the most excited anyone's ever been for almond milk. I'm not gonna lie.
We should get a sponsorship for like almond
people
milk.
Don't clamor for almond milk flavored.
I'm pro almond milk too, Jay. There you go, Jay. That's what I'm talking about. All right, I'm ready for the next. I'm ready for the next person.
Yeah, me too.
That's all I have to say about David for this episode. But David's a lot to talk about. I really do think David's gonna make it really far in this game. And David, for me, David's the most exciting to watch. Like just because, like right now, it's starting to get a little bit heated with him, and I think that he's gonna be the first one in jeopardy of getting out.
I just like watching someone piss everyone else off. That's always fun for me.
So
like. How's Mitch not a part of the Big Guys Alliance?
Have you guys seen some of the videos of Mitch on Instagram? Like Mitch does like CrossFit and bodybuilding.
But Mitch was never going to be
Mitch
in the
strong. Like why is nobody talking about how strong Mitch is? Mitch, are we forgetting about Mitch? Clutch Mitch, immunity comp Siva Mitch, hitting those shots out in the water. Mitch,
I'm not saying I disagree with y'all, but I just want y'all to look at the loyalty people and then look at everyone who's not in that alliance. It's kind of
Mitch is very loyal too. The thing that really upsets me is that nobody's really given him the opportunity for him to show that loyalty to. It's upsetting to me because I feel like Mitch is like the trajectory of where I saw Mitch or where I wanted Mitch to be. I know he's capable of so much more in this game. And I feel like nobody's really giving him a chance. Why aren't people considering Mitch as an option? Why are they counting Mitch out? I don't like that.
I don't either. I think I know where Mitch is placing. I think he's a losing finalist still.
I would love to see Mitch make the end, though. I think Mitch really deserves a spot in the final three. I do. I feel like he's played a loyal game. He's been kind to everybody, but people just want to keep backstabbing Mitch. Everyone wants to backstab Mitch. Nobody wants to actually include him. I mean, I know that this vote he was included. Everybody voted for Chrissy, so he wasn't left out of the dark. But I don't hear anybody anymore saying, I want to bring Mitch into this plan. I want to vote him out. Nobody sees Mitch as a pivotal, important vote. And I don't like that. So I want to defend Mitch because I feel like in the game, Mitch just isn't getting the recognition that Mitch deserves.
No, I agree. And we could talk all about how much we love Mitch, but I'm going to be critical of Mitch in terms of where I see him placing and how I see his trajectory. Mitch I have him at number 5, and number 5 is my cutoff. I do think Mitch still has a chance to win. I haven't ruled him out. Okay. He's my fringe 1% dark horse pick. I think if we're talking dark horses, I think we're talking Kamilla. I think we're talking we can just talk Mary.
Star's dark horse too.
Star can be dark if Star wins somehow, craziest edit.
I feel like you're right. Mitch, Star, Kamilla, Mary are all the dark horse candidates.
Dark horse.
Everyone, all the other 5 are I can see that happening.
I don't see David winning, honestly.
But I could see him going in the end and coming in second.
Yeah.
I could see him coming in second.
But the thing is with Mitch is that he's just reminding me of Ben. He's reminding me of Owen. He's reminding me of Jake. Very lovable person. People, love his love being random. A lot of personal content. There is a story. We see that a lot every single season. We saw that with Owen. We saw that with Jake. We saw that with even Ben to a certain extent. Especially Jake and Owen. They were those Charlie Brown figures. They always wanted something to happen. They always wanted to make a move. They wanted to play the game. And Mitch is just like that. He's actively clamoring. He wants to take a move. He wants to do something in this game. He just hasn't been able to. We can include Teeny.
Let's do this.
Romeo.
Right? I'm going to pull out this metaphorical little fishing rod, all right? You see this little fishing rod? Let's use our imaginations. I'm just shh. I'm casting a line, okay? And I'm Mitch right now, okay? I'm reeling it in, looking for my fish. Do you think that at some point with all these little bait that Mitch is throwing out there, do you think at some point Mitch is going to get that bite and he's going to start reeling that in? You think he's going to make that move?
No.
I think it is. I think at some point someone's going to have to say, we need Mitch. Or Mitch is going to come up with someone and be like, hey, I want to do this person. And people are going to be like, you know what? Let me check the clock. It's time. And they're going to vote them out.
The only thing with Mitch that I'm worried about, right? When you're on the bottom like this and you're kind of desperately clamoring to make a move, there's 2 options for you, right? There's 2 ways you can go about it. You can either hold your tongue, be still, and try to find any cracks. That sometimes doesn't work. I think of Mike Holloway from Worlds Apart, right? He didn't really try to throw anyone under the bus. It was just, hey, y'all need to break up the alliance and I need a crack. And they refused, right? Part of me is worried that Mitch is going to try to push a name. And no matter what happens, if Mitch makes a move that is Mitch's move 100%, then he becomes a massive target for the next round. And as great as Mitch can be at challenges, I've seen how he is. This is a very physically apt or adept cast.
Absolutely.
Mitch,
compies cast. I like it.
Mitch, as good as he can be, I'm not saying he can't win, but he will need immunity after making a crazy move. And so that's
Mitch can win immunity. Let's not count Mitch out.
I'm not counting him out, but it's not a
comp yet.
It's not a 1-for-1. There's a very real chance that Mitch can lose. And if Mitch loses, I'm worried about his capital. Or I'm afraid that people are going to be afraid to follow through on a Mitch plan or a Mitch vote, because if Mitch does gain traction and does gain steam, he becomes a bigger final tribal council threat. And people already called him a threat because of his social game alone. But at a certain point, I don't think social game is everything. I think it's easy to say that when there's no one on the jury, but like now that we're putting pen to parchment for sending people to the jury house, I don't think Mitch has the capital. I do think there's a small chance. I think it's just like with Fabio and everyone else. I think of Fabio, Bob Crowley, like there's always weird winners, Gabler even. And Mitch could be that echelon of winner. I just have a hard time seeing it.
Yeah.
And do you have anything else to say about Mitch before we take a quick ad break?
Not much. I do just have one question for you. It doesn't have to be. I'm not looking for anything really specific, but
I'll give you some.
Hypothetically, let's see. Do you think that these last two seasons, 48 and 47, that the producers purposely didn't put in a merge idol? Because I'm surprised that no one's found a merge idol in either season. It seems that all the original tribe idols are all that what goes into the end until all idols from the tribe phase. Oh wait, no, Rachel found one. I'm sorry.
It's
Rachel.
all good.
So wait, hold up. Rachel found that secret advantage at the auction. Does that mean that Eva is gonna find an idol? Is Eva gonna be two-time Tony? Two idols in my pocket? Hold up.
Hold up.
Two-time Tony with the idols?
Two-time Tony? Two-time James?
You can have all the idols.
Two-time
Deep pockets. I got them pockets going all the way down the thighs. Deep pockets.
We'll get to Eva and the crazy idea that she'll have two idols, which would be the craziest thing.
One for me, one for Joe, baby. Like
maybe we'll get to that though, because I'm curious now. I'm gonna pick your brain, but Todd Herzog is going to take it away. Take it away, Mr. Todd Herzog.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I am here with Survivor Now podcast, the best source for Survivor information, to show off what I do for a living. So I make custom Funko Pops. If you haven't seen or heard, you can check it out on Instagram at Todd's Pop Shop, or you can message me, toddspopshop@gmail.com, to order your own. And if you mention this podcast, you will get $10 off and a free torch. So it's pretty freaking awesome. I'm going to show you a few right now. We've got Troyzan here, Phil from The Amazing Race, JLP, host of Australian Survivor, and look, little Charlie. Anybody you could possibly imagine or want yourself playing an LRG or an ORG, or just with your loved one or family or pets or anything like that, shoot me a message. I'm happy to make it. You also have the chance to win a free custom pop if you sign up for Survivor Now Podcast Fantasy League. So it's pretty awesome. And it's fun. Like, who doesn't want to be a part of that? So yeah, hit me up. Get your custom pops. It's great holiday gifts, great birthday gifts. We got a new season of Survivor right around the corner. I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited. Let's get this going.
I love Troyzan. And isn't it crazy how Kyle is not winning Survivor 48? A season long of me being a hater finally paying off.
I just want to clarify this just for the viewers. Like, it's time. It's time for us. All right, let's have our moment. Ready? Let's say a prayer. Kyle, Kamilla, we found your flaws. Okay, your flaws. You're not this game of being at the top and feeling this, invincibility is over. You're not superheroes anymore. It seems that you guys cannot lie. They're really bad liars.
I thought we were praying.
Have we noticed that? No, we said our little prayer. We said our little thing.
I kept my eyes closed, man. But yeah.
Here's some of the notes that I want to say about Kyle. Kyle, your unwillingness to immediately commit to Kamilla as an option was really suspicious. And I wanted to clock that. Like, I saw that from the episode when David was pushing Kyle. that was entirely like 100% like reasonable. Like I completely understood why David would say that. Say it out loud. Why are you not willing to do Kamilla? Why are you pushing so back? You can easily say, listen, like we could do Kamilla, cool. I would prefer to do Chrissy, but I'm still open to doing Kamilla. I know he's not going to say that. He wants to play this loyal route where he's pushing the targets off of anybody and not like he doesn't want to lie to them. And I understand that. But when you're in an alliance in that circumstance, getting hit with that, you should probably come up with an answer if anybody's going to ask you, because at some point, somebody's going to ask you to take out your number one, and you better have an answer for that. So I feel like Kyle got hit with a question that he was not prepared for and gave a really bad answer in the process, which is what took David to go down that route. I completely understand why David did that, but I feel like nobody's really been asking the right questions about Kyle and Kamilla's relationship, and now it's on the radar. Now they're not at the top anymore because somebody clocked them.
Yeah, and it's even rougher for Kyle because his cards were shown, and he went from being a very cool, calm, collected, ice cube of a guy. And I also think this as well. And I think that whole conversation is really the death of that alliance. And I don't think it's going to work out for Kyle. I think what's going to happen is I do think David and Joe will still link up because they both have a lot of trust with Ava, and I don't think she's going to want David to go. I think what's going to also happen is David's going to go to Joe and to Cheyenne and really reconsider a lot of the information that Kyle and Kamilla have been giving him over the last few days, right? Leak the fact that Kamilla, called Cheyenne out for having an idol. And I think what's going to happen is I think that alliance is going to split. I think Kyle gets targeted. I think they pull in Mary. I think they pull in like Star or an outsider. I'm just bad at speaking. Ava. When I pronounce the E, I pronounce it as like a soft E, like E. I'm bad at speaking words. I think I called like Caroline the wrong name half of the last season, or like something stupid.
So to answer Hayes in the comments, Hayes, I would say that not only Mary and David, I feel like everyone's relationships got exposed point blank, except for Kyle and Kamilla since they were separated. But I feel like Chrissy, Star, and Mitch are kind of like on this floating spectrum where they don't really have somebody who absolutely like wants to be with them, but people still see them as around, which of course sucks. But I think everyone's alliances pretty much got exposed. You can add Kyle and Kamilla because David seems to be the only person who's really bringing up the big question. Like, sure, like people can be against the fact that David spoke a specific way, but to the point being at that point where he talked to Kyle, the answer that you gave, I would have thought was suspicious if I was on the island as well. I would have immediately felt that you had some form of closer relationship with Kamilla and you were trying to protect her. I feel like that was a telltale sign. And David seemed to be not the only person who picked up on that. Not in the game, but just me. I would have thought the same thing.
And I want to point out this comment too. I think this goes back to Kyle. I think people are going to trade notes, and I think Kyle and Kamilla's sneaky gameplay is getting caught. That's what I was also saying with Kamilla earlier, where she was playing too consistent, and how that was actually a bad thing in my opinion because she's not adapting to the players she's playing with. Right.
Now that we're on Kyle and Kamilla, right? Do you think maybe now that their level of sneakiness per se, now that they have to stop playing in the shadows and they got the spotlight on them, do you think that now they have to play out loud? Because sure, Kyle and Kamilla can't play sneaky anymore. People know about it, so you got to switch up your game, adapt, and now start playing out loud. Now you got to start being vocal. You can't just start telling people and whispering in people's ears because you don't have the social capital to do that. The people who have the social capital to do that, I feel like, is anybody outside of Kamilla right now, at least.
Also, hello Hazel. You're good. Like, we enjoy the lurkers here. I just want to say hi, and I'm glad you're enjoying our commentary. But I think what can happen is I think Kyle and Kamilla can be like, honestly, Wendell and Dominic from Ghost Island. I think Kamilla takes Wendell's approach and plays more sociable, more under the radar. And I think Kyle can really start making some swings and really going after some throats here. I don't know if it's going to work out. Again, like, it's a very, just like South Pacific, like, very cultish, an alliance based off something other than trust can always lead to some ickiness, right? Like, I really am comparing this Loyalty 5 group to the Apollo family from South Pacific, which is might be a little insane to say, but just in terms of how close knit they are, how they want a winner to be one of them, and their whole philosophy on the game.
South Pacific had a dominant alliance that ran through that game.
Like, and they were all,
and that kind of makes sense for this. Like, I can see that too. I could see this alliance running.
Yeah, not just that too, but the alliance in South Pacific, they got together because of religion. Like, it wasn't because they all trusted each other and worked together, but that was mainly just Sophie, Albert, and Coach. Once you bring in Rick and Brandon Hans and Edna, and they're all praying and whatnot.
Well, Brandon wanted to be like, Brandon's whole story was like he wanted to be a true man. Like,
well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, though, that alliance was very heavy in religion. And that kind of carried the alliance, and in a way, that's why they were so tight. And that reminds me of this alliance of the Loyalty 5, because they're hellbent on wanting a winner to be a physical threat who is a good guy, a hero, right? Yeah, and that can lead to some hypocrisy. And I think Kyle is kind of too far in the cult. Like, he didn't drink the Kool-Aid, but he witnessed everyone else drink the Kool-Aid. And so now Kyle has to turn his back on that while also winning a jury throat. Because if Kyle does turn his back on David, does David vote for Kyle at the very end? Like, how is David, if David does get voted out, how is he taking it?
What I would feel like is that if somebody goes out and goes home saying someone's name, right? And they're like the bitterest person on the jury, or like somebody who's like really bitter, I would say that they vote for the person that they tried to tell people to get out and still made to the end. If that happened, if they vocally said, hey, I want to vote out Will. I want to vote out Will right now. And I go home and Will's sitting in the end. I'm going to say, why shouldn't I vote for Will when I told you guys to vote him out? And he's sitting here right now. Why shouldn't I give him the $1 million? I always find that the people, your biggest enemies, are the ones that you want to see win. And we've seen that a lot in Survivor. Sometimes people are upset about it if that happens. But I feel like more so often it's more so trying to get at the other people that are sitting next to them in reference to say, hey, listen, you two should have gotten this person out. I'm going to vote for them because I told you to do it and you didn't do it.
But what I'm saying is it's less that Kyle is just voting for David. Is that Kyle is going to blindside David, and how would David take a betrayal? Because it's not just that Kyle is voting out David. It's that Kyle is going against the good guys honor alliance. Because in David's mind, Kyle was 100% locked into this alliance, into this group. That's why David was so bitter to Kyle when Kyle, wanted to say, hey, I wanted to keep Kamilla, and not elaborating why.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it all goes back to full circle, where I feel like Kyle is kind of doomed. I think right now he's in a really good position still. I think like he has momentum, and he has the edit. I just feel like Kyle is, and maybe Kyle's getting rid of David, but after that, I don't know how Kyle's going to surmount the Lagi alliance. Because I still think between Joe, Shaheen, and Ava, I think they'd be tight. I think they'd pull in Star as well as a fourth. I think Lagi as a tribe is very, very close. Yeah. And if they're just getting rid of Sivas, then it's kind of like 46, where they got rid of a bunch of Namis, and all of a sudden the end game is full of Yanu and Siga. And I think that's kind of where Kyle's game goes full circle and kind of dies like a star, whatever her last name is. Anywho, let's talk Joe now.
Okay, I could talk Joe.
You can talk Joe? Let's talk Joe.
Let's see. Do I have notes for Joe on this episode? I don't think I wrote Joe's name really down once. Joe's always going to be at the top, and I feel like one thing that really needs to be talked about is the fact that Joe was kind of like in one of those middle positions this week, in between the whole David and Kyle debacle, and ultimately, people asked for Joe's vote. So Joe is one of the pivotal votes this season. Like, people want to work with Joe. I don't know where I see Joe right now, because strategically I don't see him taking advantage, and I want to call that out. I don't really see him taking advantage of the moment and trying to move. Right now, everyone's taking the easy route. Who's going to make a move? Who's going to make a move that says you deserve to win Survivor? Like last season, we had a very obvious winner going to the end. Like, nobody was going to beat Rachel.
Okay, in the finale, yeah.
No, that's what I meant.
I meant. Yeah.
Nobody's going to beat Rachel. But if we're going to take out all the people who aren't really strategically there within the game, when we get to the final 6, what's the move that you guys are going to make that's going to really say you are the dominant player of this game that deserves the check for $1 million? I feel like Joe could be that person, but Joe isn't taking advantage of it. The person who I think is capable of it the most this game, of doing something that can take advantage of something, is actually the person that we're going to talk after Joe. Yeah.
And the only thing with Joe is that I want to agree with you, Jay. I really want to say Joe's not winning. Joe's no shot, because just kind of the archetype, Joe's archetype doesn't win Survivor. We haven't had just a good guy, like a Tom Westman figure, since Tocantins, right? It's the last time we just had an honest, all-American, guy,
an all-American guy,
guy, since for a while. But his edit is not just, I feel like it's kind of perfect, like Daryl's saying, but everyone else's edit has a lot more flaws. To me, Joe's biggest flaw so far is one part just overexposure, another part, ironically enough, getting that no confessional episode with that Eva scene. However, if any player or any winner to break the no confessionals means you're not winning rule, it would be Joe this season. And I think he's been pretty under the radar, surprisingly strategically, but we still hear from his strategic choices and decisions. We hear him, clarify his ideas, and I think Joe's strong edit isn't indicative that Joe's winning, but to me, it just reinforces that Alagi is winning the season, which is also why the Lagis make up the top 3 for us.
So what if the Lagi member is Star?
Okay, that's a little.
Wow,
that's a little
what a blindside that would be.
That's a little too crackpot. And yeah, I get it. It's just when you look at the raw numbers, Daryl, it's always been a weird trend.
Well, I think we talked about that, Will, where I said like I don't find it to be weird that he didn't get a confessional the episode that him
Yeah.
and Eva had the biggest moment in. Like they didn't
Yeah.
need a confessional because that moment spoke for itself. So I think that this can be a rare exception to the rule of, oh, if he doesn't have a confessional episode, then he doesn't win. That doesn't mean anything. Like the editors probably don't even pay attention to that. Like they probably don't.
They probably don't, but like I just
They're
think
probably like, look at these guys, like all the fans of Survivor, they're crazy.
I think of Rachel last season. Rachel had just one confessional too much in the pre-merge, and that's why I was so high on Rachel, because like she did not need a confessional in episode 2, episode 3. Like Gato was just chilling, and she was shielded, but she still had the confessionals. When we heard about her and Annika's relationship, we heard about it through the lens of Rachel, and so I just feel like it happens too much for it to just be a coincidence. I think it's just intentional because you want to prop up your winners and you want them to be visible in every light. But that's why I always bring it up, because if Joe doesn't win, then I think that'd be a reason why. However, that's why I always say, though, if he did win, it would make sense. Like that scene, that episode would be the exception to the rule.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree. I completely agree. I just the only thing that I really have to say about Joe this episode was the fact that he was kind of caught in the middle of this crossfire in terms of like just, I mean, let's talk about that point where like Kyle, kind of gauged his interest and kind of put some doubt into David. Like I think for someone to come up to him and really care about pivoting their vote, it's got to show where Joe really does stand within the tribe. But that's all I wanted to say about Joe. I think Joe's in the spot. Yes.
Anywho, you want to talk about our next person? Because I'm excited.
Let's do it. You want to start it off?
I will. We're talking Shaheen now, who I've had number 1 since episode 2, by the way. I think Shaheen, this was an episode for him. I think there's been a lot of speculation about Shaheen's edit and why it's so weird, because he does have a very weird edit. Because on one hand, he's narrating a lot. He's describing Joe and David's relationship, right? They're both cheese lovers. It always comes back to him. His thought process is, him going, I hope I'm not the sucker, this tribal. I hope I can, trust the allies I have. And I feel like he starts out a lot of episodes and he's been called a threat. And something I made note of this episode, I don't take a lot of notes where I'm like, I think this, whenever I take notes, it's usually just whatever happened on screen. Everyone who either mentioned Shaheen as a threat, target, or any negativity with Shaheen had either a really bad episode this episode or went out, or had a bad episode last episode. I think Kamilla, edgically, it was a pretty good episode for Kamilla. However, she did not get her way with Shaheen. I think Kyle was targeting Shaheen, and this was a horrific episode for him. Chrissy wanted Shaheen gone and voted Shaheen. A little bit of a theory there. It's very possible that Chrissy was told Shaheen's name, and that was a decoy vote. And
but aren't we going to talk about the fact that Shaheen, literally the last 2 tribals, was at a unanimous vote where the one vote on him was on him?
Yeah.
Like if he sits in the end, remember what I told you about how like the people who are pitching a name or who write a name down, they usually vote for the person in the end because they're like, I tried to put this guy on the radar for you and he didn't do it. Cedric and Chrissy both voted for Shaheen.
And that is a legitimate trend too with winners. That's what happened with Jan. That's what happened with Kenzie. That's what happened with Rachel. It's what happened with
Talk
Dee.
about that. It's like it's the psychology that comes with jury management and knowing what the jury would want. It doesn't work every time, but what I can tell you is I promise you, when we get to finale night, if Shaheen is sitting in the end, Chrissy 100% will vote for Shaheen.
Yes.
The bitter juror will always vote for the person they voted out the night they went home, if they are sitting in the end of the game. 100%.
Also, I just want to say, if Shaheen does win this season, I this would be the craziest like StockWatch season, even crazier than last season, because if Shaheen does win, do you know how cocky I'm going to be for Survivor 49, Josh? I don't think you understand.
You would be going for 3 in a row, right?
I'd be going for 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Look,
listen, I went like 3 seasons in a row picking my winner pick as the first boot. So this season, getting in the jury phase was enough. I made the jury, baby. Let's go. Like,
it's also this too. And I understand why people are skeptical of Shaheen because of how much he's been wrong. However, I think he needs a breakout episode. I don't think he has had a breakout episode yet where it's I think he needs a coronation episode. And I think he's due. And I think there's time. I think he's able to wait. It's unlike, Mary and Star, who they could have a coronation episode. They could have a crazy episode where their whole game and the narrative shifts. However, I think Shaheen is one of the only few players who I could still wait. I feel like there's still time, and he's in a good position, and he's chilling.
He needs to make a move by letting everybody else. If I'm Shaheen, I'm looking at the fact that Kyle wants to go after David, and they're going to go after each other, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to help one of them, because if they're going after each other, they're not going after me. So I think it's a good strat.
And this is really scary to me too, because the fact that people are thinking that next episode could be a Shaheen breakout episode could mean the opposite, where he goes out next episode for trying to make a big move. But again, like, this is the era of winners not playing optimally. And like what Jay is saying, like, Shaheen is the StockWatch pick, and I'm very happy that the comment section agrees with me. But Josh, Shaheen is not your pick.
No.
Your pick is actually Eva.
It's changed.
Which, by the way,
my top 3 was all different. Last week, I believe. It was. Do you have last week?
I can pull. I
know mine was Kyle, Kamilla at the top. Actually, you know what? I can look at it. I could just look it up because it's probably in our chat.
I was going to say,
find out where was
your top 3 was Kyle, Kamilla, and Shaheen. So
that was it last week? Yes, it was. So Eva was ranked 6 for me last week. Eva skyrocketed to the winner spot. And I think getting your little secret advantage on a day that you win immunity when you have an idol in your pocket, I'm sorry. Get that girl out she is going to win. I love how Eva's playing this game. And look at the resume. You got a secret advantage that I hope she keeps secret. Or at least tells Joe. At least if you're going to tell somebody, tell Joe. Joe won't rat you out. I thought secret advantage. I was like, are they going to drop a super idol into the game?
So
no, they can't do that.
Here's what I like about Eva's edit too, is that it's been this episode and I think last episode have both been very strategically focused. And that is what we needed for Eva as a player, because my biggest fear for a long while was that Eva was a personal player, a character. And I've made that distinction a lot before. And I was always afraid that Eva is going to be one-dimensional, just have her whole story just be her story, and then she'll get like a heroic exit, kind of like Emily Flippin of it all.
Yeah.
However, this episode was a really, really good one because we saw just enough of Eva, and a lot of it was just about the game, her thoughts, her opinions. And I think if it continues on like this, she has the trajectory, and it's still possible for the Alliance of 5 to just steamroll. it is possible for her and Joe to just kind of go not uninterrupted, but like just enough wins. She has an idol, another advantage on the way. Joe is no slouch in challenges. She's no slouch in challenges. I feel like she has the potential. And everyone called me crazy last episode because I had her number 2. And everyone's like, I don't see it. And look at y'all now.
You said it to me. You said it to me when I sent you the rankings. You were like, I said it last week, and I'm like, you know what? I see it now. I mean, now it's point blank clear. Eva has an idol with another advantage on the way that we're going to find out at the very beginning of next episode, because she's got to find it. That advantage. Here's what people are saying, and I'm going to tell you why. Listen, hear me out. Hear me out. A lot of people on the internet have been bashing the producers, saying that they rigged the competition for Eva and put it in Eva's bowl. So here's where I'm going to say they're not. And here's why. Yeah. They gave it to the person who won
the challenge. Yeah.
And it's because Eva won immunity, because the literal advantage said, at tonight, you will go and find this advantage. That means that they had to know that the person who got it was going to be safe at tribal council, right?
Yeah.
So Eva winning immunity meant that Eva would have been around long enough to go look for it that night, which means whoever won that comp was going to get that advantage or was going to have that chip bowl placed in front of them. Had Mary won it, Mary would have gotten this advantage. But it seems that the place that Eva has to go to is something that's burning on the other side of the island. Let's hope nobody sees that light.
Yeah. I agree. The other point I want to bring up with Eva, I had something else.
Yes,
something
it was made easier to find Daryl because it was placed in front of her. That still doesn't mean that Eva could have found it. What if Joe's like, hey, Eva, let me get that chip? Like,
yeah.
And no, Joe finds it.
I don't think they rigged it for Eva. I think it was always for the winner. Yeah. I just think when the clear fan favorite they're trying to prop up gets it, they kind of have to run with it.
Yeah, they do.
I can't imagine what it would be like if Star found it instead. But at the same time, I don't like how they did it because it's not made clear enough. Like there's still the potential. And I think people are more worried about the potential that they could rig it, less than they actually truly believe that they rigged it for Eva.
Well, I mean, I know, like, to me, they didn't rig it because it literally said that tonight you're going to find your advantage on the other side of the island. And because Eva had immunity, there's like, otherwise you're getting an advantage. They built up this whole thing to give you an advantage in the game for entertainment purposes. And then if Eva gets voted out, then that advantage is gone. And it's like, okay, what was the point of building that up? They needed to make sure that this advantage was going to stay in the game. Therefore, they had to give it to somebody who was going to survive the night. So that's why I am strongly with the producers here and say, look, they did not rig that comp. There's no way. Eva found that fair and square, that it was easier. The advantage was getting an easier chance at finding that, and she got it. She got it. She found it, and she kept it secret.
Yep. And then Jay also kind of agrees with us as well. But no, I think honestly, I think that might be it. Is there anything else about Eva or anyone else we wanted to bring up?
Because I had a whole bunch of notes that I wrote about Eva. I found that it was important that Eva tells people, right? Eva was the one who was spreading the information to the strong players alliance of Chrissy wanting to get the stronger players out. It was Eva that was the one that was always spreading the information. And I believe Eva had a conversation with 4 or 5 different people this episode that showed individual conversations where it was her that was spreading that information. So I want to highlight that's really important, that Eva was the one who was giving the information to people. I think that that's really important to highlight, especially for who we're looking at for a winner pick. Eva also got a secret advantage and an immunity win. I think it's safe to say Eva was the player of the episode this episode.
Yeah.
I think runner-ups would be David and Kyle.
Not Kyle. No, Kyle. This was the worst episode for Kyle.
Well, I mean, like runner-up. I mean, like when it's talking about like who is the most talked about.
Oh,
maybe
okay.
that's what I should reference.
I got you.
Like player of the episode, Eva, 100%. But like runner-up of like who are like people on the radar, like David was definitely talked about. All that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I do want to talk about one other moment that I thought was interesting. I might need to rewatch it to see if this happened. But after Eva and Joe finished the bridge thing, part of the competition, Joe looked like really excited because everyone else was behind. I think Kyle and Chrissy was behind. Joe looked like he was arms open, was ready to give Eva a hug, and was so excited to like celebrate that with her. Eva, her mind pushes Joe to the side and says, "We're finishing this comp like right now." And I respected that a lot because if that's what happened and I didn't misinterpret that, it shows a lot about Eva's character saying, listen, I'm here for the competition. I want to compete with the best. It's Mamba mentality at that point, you know? Job's not finished. Job's not finished until we're on that mat. So I'm not going to waste a second. Job is not finished. And I love that about Eva. I want to end with that because I think that that's a great quality of a winner. And I do think that we're starting to see a little bit more of the winner potential from Eva.
Yeah. And stepping away from just Eva, again, my personal rankings, the only people I have left, I think Shiny is my number 1, Eva number 2, Joe, Kamilla just in case, but I'm really about to cut her. And then Mitch as my like 1% dark horse.
Kamilla's on thin ice. The smallest step with the most pressure will break through. She's that close to going home. She's like hanging onto a thread. But yeah, I think we had a great conversation. Will, this was a really good episode.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this has been for a merge in a long while. This is one of the few seasons where I feel like a lot of the drama is really in the end game. Just like last season as well, where a lot of the power players are saved for the final 5, final 6, which is always an interesting thing to look at because there's been other seasons where all the fun power shifts and movers and shakers go out pre-merge, and that season's called Ghost Island, and Ghost Island pretty bad. So
yeah. Well, it's I'm excited to see how this one ends. I feel like there's a lot of people that I'm really rooting for still.
Oh yeah. Anywho, you can catch us next Thursday. I'm going to talk to Randy, and we're going to make some adjustments and really iron out the schedule. Because we want to be consistent here on StockWatch. Just like how Cheyenne is consistently number 1, we're going to be more consistent. All right. Peace.